How are you guys doing? Today is Friday, December 16th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I am going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances from Thursday, December 15th, and I am going to preview what's going on today and even tomorrow as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. So taking a quick step back and looking at where we are in the calendar year, in the FIFA World Cup, there are two teams that are left competing for the title. However, there is another game before that, as the third place game will be played tomorrow and the final will be played on Sunday. Taking a look at what's going on with college sports, the college football bowl season starts today, as one of the bowls will include two ranked opponents coming in with 11-2 records. Taking a look at what's going on with college basketball, there was only one ranked college basketball matchup that happened yesterday. Yesterday would also be the first matchup of Week 15 of the 2022 NFL season, as the Niners would beat the Seahawks for their 10th win of the year, as they are now currently holding on to a 7-game winning streak for the time being. Congratulations to them for playing incredibly well up until this point. And then taking a look at what's going on with the arena sports, the NHL has been playing, as well as there's been a full slate of hockey games, and in the NBA there were 4 games that took place. So I'll take you through every single one of them as we go sport to sport. Taking a look first at what's going on in Qatar, the third place matchup between Croatia and Morocco will take place tomorrow. And of course, I will do a preview for the final round right after this. But just to give you just a long story short, Morocco and Croatia were in the same group. Morocco would finish with more points than Croatia. The difference would be that Morocco beat Belgium, whereas Croatia drew with Belgium in the round of 16. Looking first at Croatia, Croatia would end up beating Japan on penalty kicks. They would beat Brazil on penalty kicks in the quarterfinals before they would lose 3-0 to Argentina in the semifinals. After winning that group, Morocco would finish beating Spain on penalty kicks to make it through the round of 16. They would beat Portugal 1-0 in the quarterfinals before losing to France 2-0. Only one of these two teams will end their World Cup having lost 2 games in a row. And of course, I'll give you the same preview for this game tomorrow. And the World Cup final will follow will follow the day after that on Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as Argentina will play against France. Argentina would go on and win their group, which was Group C, after losing to Saudi Arabia and beating Poland and Mexico in the group stage. Argentina would win their round of 16 game against Australia 2-1. They would beat the Netherlands off of penalties in the quarterfinals. Then they would beat Croatia 3-0. Looking at how France would make it to the final, they would finish at the top of Group D with wins over Australia and Denmark, and then losing to Tunisia. In the round of 16, France would end up winning their particular matchup against Poland 3-1. They would win in the quarterfinal round against England 2-1, and then in the semifinals they would beat Morocco 2-0 to make it to this round. Congratulations to all 4 of the teams that would make it here, and like I said, I will preview it in this next round. And of course, this is a big occasion considering it happens every 4 years. Taking a look now at what would happen with college sports here in the U.S. Starting off with college football, today is the very first day of bowl season. At 11:30 on ESPN, unranked 6-6 UAB is going to face off against unranked Miami, Ohio, who is also 6-6 in the Hometown Lenders Bahamas Bowl in Nassau. At 3 o'clock on ESPN as well, 24th ranked Troy is set to host 25th ranked UT San Antonio. This is going to be the Duluth Trading Care Bowl in Orlando, Florida, in Exploria Stadium. So of course, congratulations to all the teams involved. Looking specifically at the Duluth Trading Care Bowl, UTSA would go on and win their conference, the Conference USA, which is why they finished at 11-2. Troy would finish with an 11-2 record after having finished with the best record in the Sun Belt and having won against Coastal Carolina for their conference championship. So this is how their seasons are going to end. Taking a look at what's going on with college basketball, the lone ranked team that played yesterday would be the 22nd ranked Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin would end up beating unranked Lehigh 78-56. They would win this game by 22 at home after they would outscore the Hawks by 23 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 22nd ranked Badgers would be led in scoring by their starting forward, Steven Crowell. Wisconsin's 7-foot junior out of Eagan, Minnesota, would finish with 15 points. He also had 5 rebounds in 27 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field. He made his only three-pointer as he made both of his free throws as well. With this win at home, the 22nd ranked Wisconsin Badgers are 9-2. With this loss, unranked Lehigh is 4-5 this season. Taking a look at what's going on today with college basketball, there are no ranked teams that are playing today, as the ranked teams will be playing tomorrow, including the defending champs, who are currently the 8th ranked team in the nation. I'm talking about Kansas. Taking a look at what's going on at the professional level. Starting off in the NFL, this is the very first game of Week 15 this year, as the Seattle Seahawks would host the San Francisco 49ers. Coming into this game, the Seahawks were sitting just outside of the playoff picture. And in this game, the Niners would come into this matchup holding the longest active winning streak in the NFC, or in the NFL as a whole, as a matter of fact. The Niners would end up beating the Seahawks 21-13. They would win this game by 8 points after they would outscore the Seahawks 14-3 in the first half. Seattle would outscore San Francisco 10-7 in the second half, but it wouldn't be enough. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Seahawks would be led in scoring by their starting quarterback, Geno Smith. Smith would end up throwing for 238 yards and a touchdown. His 18 yards on his one carry on the ground would give him 256 yards of offense. Seattle's rookie running back, Kenneth Walker III out of Michigan State, had 47 rushing yards and 32 receiving yards, which would give him 79 yards of offense for the day. Seattle's elite wide receiver, DK Metcalf, had 7 receptions for 55 yards after he had a birthday this past week. Seattle's tight end, Noah Fant, had 5 receptions for 32 yards as he had the team's lone receiving touchdown. Seattle's leading tackler on the defensive side was Cody Barton, who was tied for the most tackles in the game. Seattle's linebacker out of Utah would finish with 10 total tackles on the day. The team's lone sack went to Quentin Jefferson as the team logged no interceptions. The Niners would log no interceptions either. On the winning end of this matchup, the visiting Niners would be led out by their starting quarterback out of Iowa State, Brock Purdy. Purdy would throw for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns. The 49ers' elite running back from Stanford in the area, Christian McCaffrey, would finish with 26 carries for 108 yards as he had a rushing touchdown. He had 30 yards through the air to give him 138 total yards of offense. The Niners' elite tight end, George Kittle, had 4 receptions for 93 yards as he had both of the team's receiving touchdowns. The 49ers would be led in tackles by Diamadre Lenoir. San Francisco's corner out of Oregon would be tied for the most tackles in the game as he had 10 tackles total. He would also have a tackle for loss. The Niners would combine for 3 sacks, as one of them came from their elite defensive end out of Ohio State, Nick Bosa. He would have 2 total tackles on the day. With this win on the road, the San Francisco 49ers are 10-4 this season. They hold on to the best record in the NFC West with 3 games left in their schedule. Having beaten Seattle, they now own the tiebreaker, which means they have clinched a playoff spot in the NFC. They are the second team to do so after the Philadelphia Eagles. Looking at where they sit in the playoff picture, they have the 3rd best record in the NFC as they have as many wins as the Vikings and the Cowboys. However, the Cowboys are 2nd in their division, so they're in the wild card. The Vikings they've lost 1 less game, so that's why the Niners are in that 3rd seed. However, their 7-game win streak is currently the longest active winning streak in the NFL, regardless of how every game goes this week. They have, of course, won their last 7 games. That's how a 7-game win streak goes. And on the losing end of this matchup, the Seattle Seahawks are 7-7. They are holding on to the second best record in the NFC West as they trail the 49ers by 3 games in the division. In the playoff picture, they still have as many wins as the 7th seed New York Giants. However, the Giants have 2 less losses and a tie, so that puts a little bit more space between the Seahawks and them. The Seahawks are going to have to hope for the Commanders or the Giants to lose to give them a better chance moving forward. The Seahawks have lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 4 of their last 5 games to date. The NFL season will resume tomorrow, as the NFL's first Saturday games will be at 1, 4:30, and 8:15, all on NFL Network, as I will preview them all individually. Taking a look at what's going on in the NHL. Starting off in Boston, the Bruins would host the LA Kings. The Bruins would come into this game with the best record in the NHL, and the Kings would beat the Bruins 3-2. The Bruins would hold a 2-0 lead. The Kings would end up tying the game in the third period off of Adrian Kemp's second goal of the game, his 12th of the season, as it was off of a power play. And then in the shootout, it would be Trevor Moore scoring to get the Kings the win. The top star would be the Kings center out of Sweden, Adrian Kemp. He would finish with 2 goals. With this road win past overtime, the LA Kings are holding on to a 16-12-5 record. As of right now, the Kings' 37 points in 33 games is the second best record in the Pacific Division. They currently sit 8 points behind the division-leading Vegas Golden Knights, as the Kings have won 4 of their last 10 games to date. With this loss, the Boston Bruins are now holding on to a record of 23-4-2. Their 48 points in 29 games is still the best record in the Eastern Conference and in the NHL as a whole. In their division, they sit 4 points ahead of the second-place Toronto Maple Leafs. In the Eastern Conference, they sit 4 points ahead of the Metropolitan Division leading New Jersey Devils as well. They sit 3 points ahead of the Western Conference leading Vegas Golden Knights for right now as well. As with this loss, the Bruins have lost 4 of their last 10 games. 2 of those 4 losses have come in overtime or later. Jumping out to North Carolina, the Carolina Hurricanes would host the Seattle Kraken from the other end of the country. The Carolina Hurricanes would beat the Seattle Kraken 3-2. The Hurricanes would score 2 goals in the first period, the first 3 goals of the game, to really take full advantage of this matchup. The top star will go to Carolina's right winger out of Plano, Texas, Stefan Noesen. He would score 1 goal on the game, as it would be the team's third goal of the game, as he would score the goal off of a penalty shot. With this win at home, the Carolina Hurricanes are holding on to a 17-6-6 record. Right now, the Hurricanes' 40 points in 29 games is the second best record in the Metropolitan Division. They're currently tied with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Right now, the Hurricanes sit just 4 points behind the division-leading New Jersey Devils. They're on a 3-game winning streak, as they've now won 7 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss, the Seattle Kraken are 16-10-3. Their 35 points in 29 games ties them with the Edmonton Oilers for the third best record in the Pacific. They have 2 less games played than the Oilers, as they sit just 10 points behind the division-leading Golden Knights. The Kraken are on a 2-game losing streak, as they've now lost 5 of their last 10 games to date. Jumping out to Sunrise, Florida, the Florida Panthers would host the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins would beat the Panthers 4-2. The Panthers would end up scoring the first goal of this game, as the Penguins would score 3 unanswered to take full advantage. They would take the full-on lead in this game off of Jake Guentzel's 14th goal of the season in the middle of the second period. The top star would go to Pittsburgh's defender out of Montreal, Chris Letang. He would finish with a goal and an assist. The second star would go to Pittsburgh center Evgeny Malkin. He would finish with a goal and an assist as well. With this win on the road, the Pittsburgh Penguins have extended their winning streak to 7, and they are now holding on to a 18-8-4 record. Their 40 points in 30 games ties them with the Carolina Hurricanes for the second best record in the Metropolitan Division. The Penguins sit 4 points behind the division-leading New Jersey Devils. Their 7-game winning streak is the longest active winning streak in the entire NHL, and the Penguins have won 8 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss, the Florida Panthers are 14-13-4. Their 32 points in 31 games is tied with the Detroit Red Wings for the 4th best record in the Atlantic Division. The Penguins currently sit 16 points behind the division-leading Boston Bruins. As of now, the Panthers have lost 6 of their last 10 games to date. And taking a look at what would happen in Montreal, the Canadiens would host the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks from the Western Conference would enter this game with the worst record in the NHL. The Ducks would score the first 2 goals of the game in the first period. The Canadiens would actually tie it up with the first 2 goals of the third. The Anaheim Ducks would score 3 goals in the last 10 minutes of the game. They would take the outright lead off of John Klingberg's 3rd goal of the season. And then the top star would go to Montreal's right winger Cole Caulfield, as their winger from Stevens Point, Wisconsin, would finish with both of the team's goals. Anaheim's defender out of Sweden, John Klingberg, would be the second star of the game, as he had 2 goals himself. Anaheim center Adam Henrique would finish with a goal and an assist, as he hit the 3rd star of the game. With this road win, the Anaheim Ducks are now holding on to a record of 8-20-3. As of right now, their 19 points in 31 games is the worst record in the Pacific Division. As of right now, only the Blackhawks have a worse record than they do in the Western Conference. They sit 26 points behind the division-leading Vegas Golden Knights for the time being. The Ducks have won 2 of their last 10 games to date. With this loss at home, the Montreal Canadiens are 14-14-2. Their 30 points in 30 games are tied with the Buffalo Sabres for the second worst record in the Atlantic Division. They are sitting 18 points behind the division-leading Boston Bruins. The Canadiens have lost their last 2 games, and they have now lost 6 of their last 10 games to date, to give a sense of where they sit. Jumping out to New York, the Rangers would host the Toronto Maple Leafs, as these are 2 of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. The Rangers would beat the Maple Leafs 3-1 at home after scoring a goal in every single period. The Rangers would score the first goal as the Maple Leafs would tie it up in the first. The New York Rangers would take the outright lead in the second period off of Jimmy Vesey's 4th goal of the season, his first of 2 in the game. Jimmy Vesey, New York's left winger out of Boston, Massachusetts, would finish with the top star of the game. He would finish with 2 goals for the Rangers. The second star would go to New York's Russian goalie Igor Shesterkin. He would finish with 22 saves, as with this win at home, the New York Rangers are holding on to what is now a 16-10-5 record. Their 37 points in 31 games is the 4th best record in the Metropolitan Division. They sit 7 points behind the division-leading New Jersey Devils. The Rangers are on a 5-game winning streak right now. Only the Pittsburgh Penguins have a longer active winning streak than the Rangers do in the Eastern Conference and in the NHL for that matter as well. The Rangers have won 6 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss, the Toronto Maple Leafs are 19-6-6. Their 44 points in 31 games is the second best record in the Atlantic Division, and tied with the New Jersey Devils for the second best record in the East. The Maple Leafs now sit 4 points behind the division-leading Boston Bruins, as they've only lost 2 of their last 10 games to date. Jumping out to New Jersey, the division-leading Devils would host the Philadelphia Flyers. The Devils would end up losing to the Flyers 2-1. The Flyers would end up winning this game after scoring a goal in the second and third period, after the New Jersey Devils would score the first goal of the game in the first period. The Flyers would take the outright lead off of Travis Konechny's 12th goal of the season. On the winning, I guess on the winning end of this matchup, the top star would go to the Philadelphia Flyers goalie out of Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada, Carter Hart. Carter Hart would finish with 48 saves as he allowed 1 goal to the division leaders. With this road win, the Philadelphia Flyers are 10, 14, and 7. They are 27 points in 31 games, is the second worst record in the Metropolitan Division. The Flyers are currently sitting 17 points behind the division-leading New Jersey Devils, who they just beat. The Flyers have won 3 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss, the New Jersey Devils are holding on to a 21-7-2 record. Their 44 points in 30 games is currently the best record in the Metropolitan Division. They sit 4 points ahead of the second place Carolina Hurricanes, and they are tied with the Maple Leafs for the second best record in the East, as they sit 4 points behind the conference leading Boston Bruins. The Devils are on a 4-game losing streak. Their 4-game losing streak is tied with the Detroit Red Wings for the longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference. The Nashville Predators and the Chicago Blackhawks are the 2 teams in the NHL with longer active losing streaks than the division leaders. The Devils have lost 5 of their last 10 games to date. Jumping out to the Tampa Bay, the Lightning are going to they did host the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Lightning would end up beating the Blue Jackets 4-1 at home, as they would end up beating the team who would come into this game with the worst record in the East. The Lightning would score 3 of their 4 goals in the third period to break the 1-1 tie. The player to break the tie would be Brayden Point, as Brayden Point would score his 16th goal of the season for the defending back-to-back Eastern Conference champs. Brayden Point, the Lightning center out of Calgary, Alberta, would be the top star for the team. And then Tampa Bay's goalie for the day, Brian Elliott, out of Newmarket, Ontario, would be the second star of the game, as he allowed just 1 goal, and he did finish with 24 saves. The third star would go to Tampa Bay's right winger, Nikita Kucherov, as he would have a trio of assists to help the Lightning at home. With this win, the Tampa Bay Lightning are holding on to an NHL record of 19-9-1. Their 39 points in 29 games is the third best record in the Atlantic Division. They are sitting 9 points behind the division-leading Boston Bruins. However, their 4-game winning streak is the third longest active winning streak in the East, behind the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Lightning have won 8 of their last 10 games to date. With this loss, the Columbus Blue Jackets are 10-17-2. Their 22 points in 29 games is the worst record in the Eastern Conference right now. The Chicago Blackhawks and the Anaheim Ducks are the 2 teams in the NHL with worse records than the Columbus Blue Jackets right now. The Blue Jackets are sitting 22 points behind the division-leading New Jersey Devils, as they sit at 22 points themselves. The Blue Jackets have lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10 games to date. Jumping out to Washington, D.C., my nation's capital, the Washington Capitals would host the Dallas Stars. The Stars would end up beating the Capitals 2-1, as their 2 goals would come in the third period after Washington scored their lone goal from Connor Sheary in the second. The Stars would take the outright lead off of Colin Miller's second goal of the season just 3 minutes into the third period. The top star would go to Dallas's goalie out of Lakeville, Minnesota, Jake Oettinger. He would allow 1 goal from the Caps, but he would finish with 45 saves on the day. And with this win on the road, the Dallas Stars are now holding on to a NHL record of 16-8-5. As of right now, their 41 points in 31 games is the best record in the Central Division. They sit 2 points ahead of the second place Winnipeg Jets. They sit 4 points behind the Pacific Division leading Golden Knights for the Western Conference race. The Stars are on a 2-game winning streak, as they've won 6 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss at home, the Washington Capitals are 15-13-4. Their 34 points in 32 games is the third worst record in the Metropolitan Division. The Capitals are sitting 10 points behind the division-leading New Jersey Devils. The Caps have lost 4 of their last 10 games to date. Jumping out to Winnipeg, the Jets would host the Nashville Predators in a game that would go to overtime. The Jets would beat the Predators 2-1 in that overtime period. Both teams would score in the first period as Nashville would strike first. Winnipeg would take their first lead in overtime off of Kyle Connor's 12th goal of the season. Kyle Connor, with a goal and an assist, would be the Winnipeg Jets' third star of the game, or just the game's third star. The top star would be Nashville's goalie Juuse Saros out of Finland. Even though he would give up 2 goals to the Jets, he finished with 39 saves. With this win at home, the Winnipeg Jets are holding on to an NHL record of 19-9-1. That is the same record as the Tampa Bay Lightning, just coincidentally. Their 39 points in 29 games is the second best record in the Central Division. They sit 2 points behind the division-leading Dallas Stars. The Jets have won 7 of their last 10 games to date, and with this overtime loss, the Nashville Predators are 12-12-4. Their 28 points in 28 games is the third worst record in the Central Division. They are sitting 13 points behind the division-leading Stars. The Predators are on a 5-game losing streak. The Predators' 5-game losing streak is tied with the Chicago Blackhawks for the longest active losing streak in the entire NHL. Right now, the Predators have lost 6 of their last 10 games, as 2 of those 6 losses have come in overtime or later. Jumping out to Chicago, the Blackhawks would host the Pacific Division leading Vegas Golden Knights, who would enter this matchup with the best record in the West. The Vegas Golden Knights would end up beating the Blackhawks 4-1 to extend the Blackhawks losing streak to 5. The Golden Knights would score the first 3 goals of this game, as the Chicago Blackhawks would score their lone goal in the third. The top star of this game would be Vegas's right winger out of Toronto, Riley Smith. Riley Smith would get the top star after finishing with 2 goals. Vegas' center, William Karlsson, would get the second star as he had 2 assists. And Vegas' center, Jonathan Marchessault, finished with 2 assists as he got the third star for the team. With this win on the road, the Vegas Golden Knights are holding on to an NHL record of 22-9-1. Their 45 points through 32 games is the best record in the Western Conference. In the Pacific Division, they sit 8 points ahead of the second place LA Kings. They also sit ahead of the Central Division leading Dallas Stars by 4 points. In the entire NHL race, the Golden Knights still sit 3 points behind the Eastern Conference leading Boston Bruins. The Golden Knights have won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss, the Chicago Blackhawks are 7-17-4. Their 18 points in 28 games is now the single worst record in the entire NHL. In their Central Division, they are sitting 23 points behind the division-leading Dallas Stars. The Blackhawks are on a 5-game losing streak, tied with the Predators for the longest active losing streak in the NHL. The Blackhawks have lost 9 of their last 10 games at this point. Jumping out to Denver, the defending Stanley Cup champs, the Colorado Avalanche would host the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres would beat the Avalanche 4-2 after scoring the first 3 goals of this matchup. The Avalanche scored the first 2 goals of the third period to give their fans some hope. However, Dylan Cousins' 11th goal in the final minute of the game would secure the game for Buffalo on an empty net. The top star would be Buffalo's right winger out of Phoenix, Arizona, Tage Thompson. He would finish with a goal and an assist. Buffalo's goalie in this matchup, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen out of Finland, would finish with the second star. He would allow 2 goals from the defending champs as he had 39 saves. And Colorado's right winger, Valeri Nichushkin, would finish with 2 assists and the third star. On the winning end of this matchup, the Buffalo Sabres are now holding on to an NHL record of 14-14-2. Their 30 points in 30 games ties them with the Montreal Canadiens for the second worst record in the Atlantic Division. They sit 18 points behind the division-leading Boston Bruins. However, with this win on the road, the Sabres are on a 2-game winning streak and they've won 5 of their last 10 games. With this loss, the defending champs Colorado Avalanche are holding on to a 15-11-2 record. Their 32 points in 28 games is the 4th best record in the Central Division. They sit 9 points behind the division-leading Dallas Stars, and as of right now, the Avalanche have lost 6 of their last 10 games to date. Last but not least, in Edmonton, the Oilers would host the St. Louis Blues. The Blues would end up beating the Oilers 4-3 as this game would go to a shootout. The Blues would force the shootout after they were trailing 3-1 in the third. Vladimir Tarasenko's shorthanded goal within the last 20 seconds would tie the game and send it into overtime for St. Louis. The lone goal scored in the shootout was scored by Jordan Kyrou, as St. Louis's center out of Toronto would be the second star of the game with his 1 goal and 2 assists. The top star of the game would be Edmonton's defender out of Victoria, British Columbia, Tyson Barrie. He had 3 assists. And with this win on the road in the shootout, the St. Louis Blues are holding on to a record of 14-15-1. Their 29 points in 30 games is the 5th best record in the Central Division. They are sitting 12 points behind the division-leading Dallas Stars. They have won their last 2 games, and they've won 4 of their last 10 games to date. With this loss, the Edmonton Oilers are 17-13-1, picking up their very first loss in overtime. As of right now, with this loss in overtime, every team in the NHL has now lost in overtime or later, the Oilers being the last one. With their 35 points in 31 games, they are tied with the Seattle Kraken for the 3rd most points in the Pacific Division. They sit 10 points behind the division-leading Vegas Golden Knights, and the Oilers have lost 6 of their last 10 games to date, and they've played 2 more games than the Kraken, which gives the Kraken an advantage there. Transitioning into what's going on today in the NHL, there's only 3 games today. At 8 o'clock, the Minnesota Wild are set to host the Blackhawks as the Blackhawks sport the longest active losing streak in the NHL alongside the Predators, but the Predators don't play today. At 9 o'clock, the Calgary Flames are going to host the St. Louis Blues, as the Flames are holding on to a 4-game losing streak. And then at 9:30, the Arizona Coyotes are getting set to host the New York Islanders. That's going to be at 9:30. Taking a look at what's going on in arenas in the NBA, starting off in Houston, the Rockets would host the Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat would beat the Rockets 111-108. They won this game by 3 on the road after outscoring the Rockets by 14 points in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Rockets would be led in scoring by their starting shooting guard Jalen Green. The former number 2 overall pick would finish with 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 21 from the field and 5 for 6 from the free throw line. The Rockets starting shooting guard Kevin Porter Jr. had 21 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, and 6 turnovers in 36 minutes. He shot 10 for 17 from the field as he made his only free throw. Houston's rookie starting power forward out of Auburn, Jabari Smith Jr., had 15 points and 11 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 6 for 14 from the field and 2 for 3 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the visiting Miami Heat were led in scoring by their starting guard out of Kentucky, Tyler Hero. Hero would finish with 41 points and 6 rebounds as well as 2 assists in 40 minutes. Hero would shoot 13 for 20 from the field, 10 for 15 from 3. He would make all 5 of his free throw attempts. Miami's elite starting small forward out of Marquette, Jimmy Butler, finished with 20 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks in 36 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field and 6 for 10 from the free throw line. With this win on the road, the Miami Heat are holding on to a 15-15 record. With this win, they are holding on to the 8th best record in the East. They sit 7.5 games behind the conference-leading Boston Celtics. The Heat are on a 3-game winning streak as they've now won 6 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 9-19. They are tied with the San Antonio Spurs for the worst record in the Western Conference. Win percentage-wise, they still sit ahead of the Orlando Magic, the Detroit Pistons, and the Charlotte Hornets of the Eastern Conference. With this loss, however, the Rockets are sitting 10 games behind the conference-leading Memphis Grizzlies. The Rockets have lost 5 of their last 10 games to date with this one. Jumping out to Memphis, the Grizzlies would host the Milwaukee Bucks, and because the Pelicans lost and they were able to pick up a 41-point win at home, the Grizzlies now hold on to the best record in the West. They won this game against the Bucks 142-101 after they would outscore the Bucks by 15 in the first quarter and then by 14 in the second. They were up by 29 at the half. They would outscore the Bucks by an additional 17 in the third as they were up by 46 points after 3 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the visiting Milwaukee Bucks would be led in scoring this game by their elite starting power forward out of Greece, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and their forward off the bench, Bobby Portis. Giannis would finish with 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in 26 minutes. He shot 5 for 13 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 8 for 13 from the free throw line. Milwaukee's forward, Bobby Portis, finished with 19 points and 7 rebounds in 22 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Grizzlies were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard, Ja Morant. He would finish with a triple-double in 26 minutes. He had 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists. He would shoot 9 for 21 from the field in those 26 minutes as he shot 2 for 8 from 3, and he would shoot 5 for 8 from the free throw line. And then with this win at home, the Memphis Grizzlies are holding on to a 19-9 record after they would see 7 or 8 of their players finish with a double-digit amount of points. With their 19-9 record, they hold the best record in the Western Conference. Win percentage-wise, they still sit behind the Celtics and the Bucks of the Eastern Conference in terms of overall records in the NBA. In the Western Conference, they sit a full game ahead of the New Orleans Pelicans, as the Grizzlies are the lone team in the Western Conference who still has a single-digit amount of losses at this point. They're the last team standing. With this win, their 7-game winning streak is now the longest active winning streak in the entire NBA. They've won 9 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss, the Milwaukee Bucks are 20-8. They are one of the 3 teams in the NBA that have a single-digit amount of losses, as they are still holding the second-best record in the NBA and the second-best record in the East. They sit a game and a half behind the conference-leading Boston Celtics. They've lost 3 of their last 10 games to date. Jumping out to Salt Lake City, the Utah Jazz would host the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans would enter this matchup tied with the Grizzlies for the best record in the West, and they were holding the longest active winning streak in the NBA. The Jazz would beat the Pelicans 132-29 in overtime to end that winning streak, as now the Grizzlies are holding on to the best record in the NBA. Or at least in the Western Conference, The Jazz would win this game 132-129 after outscoring the Pelicans 9-6 in overtime after the Jazz would force overtime in the first place. On the losing end of this matchup, the visiting Pelicans would be led in scoring by their elite starting power forward out of Duke. Zion Williamson would finish with 31 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 blocks in 42 minutes. The former National Player of the Year would finish shooting 12 for 24 from the field. He would make his only 3-point attempt of the day as he shot 6 for 8 from the free throw line as well. The Pelicans starting shooting guard CJ McCollum would finish with 28 points and 6 rebounds as well as 2 blocks as he nearly fouled out in 42 minutes. He would shoot 11 for 25 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3. He would make all 3 of his free throw attempts. On the winning end of this matchup in overtime, the hometown Jazz would be led in scoring by their starting point guard Jordan Clarkson. Clarkson would finish with 39 points as well as 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals in 39 minutes. He would shoot 15 for 26 from the field, 7 for 14 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the free throw line. Utah's starting power forward out of Arizona, Lauri Markkanen, had 31 points and 5 rebounds as well as 3 assists in 42 minutes. He would shoot 8 for 15 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and make all 10 of his free throw attempts. With this win at home, the Utah Jazz are now 17-14. They are now tied with the LA Clippers for the 7th best record in the Western Conference, win percentage-wise. They sit 3.5 games behind the conference leading Memphis Grizzlies. They've won their last 2 games and they've won 5 of their last 10. And with this loss, the New Orleans Pelicans are 18-10, the second to last team in the West to pick up a double-digit amount of wins or a double-digit amount of losses. They are sitting a full game behind the conference-leading Memphis Grizzlies. They're on a 2-game losing streak as they've now lost 3 of their last 10. Their winning streak got snapped the previous game, but that is where the Pelicans are sitting. And taking a look at what would happen in Los Angeles, last but not least, the LA Clippers would host the Phoenix Suns. The Suns would end up beating the Clippers by 16 as they would outscore the Clippers by 16 in the second quarter. The Suns were actually up by 27 points at halftime as they also outscored the Clippers by 11 in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Clippers would be led in scoring by their starting shooting guard Terrence Mann. LA's guard out of Florida State would finish with 22 points. He would go on and finish with 11 rebounds as well in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 14 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3 as he made both of his free throws. And then on the winning end of this matchup, the visiting Phoenix Suns would be led in scoring by their starting small forward, Mikal Bridges, out of Villanova. He would go on and finish with 27 points and 6 rebounds and 2 blocks in 39 minutes. He would shoot 11 for 18 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and he would shoot 3 for 4 from the free throw line. Phoenix's elite starting point guard Chris Paul would finish with 15 points, 7 rebounds, 13 assists, and 2 steals in 36 minutes. He would end up shooting 6 for 13 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Phoenix's center off the bench, Jock Landale, would finish with 15 points and 10 rebounds, as well as 2 blocks in 27 minutes. He would shoot 5 for 10 from the field and 4 for 5 from the free throw line. Phoenix's elite starting shooting guard, Devin Booker out of Kentucky, would finish with 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists in 35 minutes. He would shoot 6 for 22 from the field, 1 for 9 from 3. He would make his only free throw as well. The Suns' small forward off the bench, Josh Okogie, had 11 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 steals in 25 minutes. He would shoot 5 for 9 from the field. And with this win on the road, the Phoenix Suns are holding on to a 17-12 record. They are holding the 4th best record in the Western Conference as they sit 2.5 games behind the conference leading Memphis Grizzlies. The Suns have won 4 of their last 10 games to date. And with this loss at home, the LA Clippers are 17-14. They are tied with the Utah Jazz for the 7th best record in the West. They sit 3.5 games behind the conference leading Memphis Grizzlies. The Clippers have lost 5 of their last 10 games to date. And that brings us to where we are now in the NBA. Today is Friday, which means that the primetime games today are going to be presented on ESPN. At 7:30, the defending champs Golden State Warriors, who are sitting a game below 500, are going to go to Philadelphia to face off against the 15-12 Philadelphia 76ers, who are holding on to the 5th best record in the East, as well as a 3-game winning streak, as the Warriors enter this matchup with the 10th best record in the Western Conference, along with a 2-game losing streak, and they are holding on to a 2-13 road record coming into this matchup. ESPN's 10 o'clock matchup tonight is going to feature the LA Lakers, who hold the 4th worst record in the West, as they are going to host the Denver Nuggets, who have the defending back-to-back NBA MVP Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets enter this matchup holding on to the 3rd best record in the Western Conference, as they sit a game and a half behind the conference-leading Grizzlies. Outside of the primetime games, at 7 o'clock, the Charlotte Hornets host the Atlanta Hawks, as the Hornets hold the worst record in the NBA right now. At 7 o'clock, the Detroit Pistons are going to host the Sacramento Kings, as the Pistons hold the 2nd worst record in the NBA. At 7:30, the Celtics are going to host the Orlando Magic, as the Magic hold the 3rd worst record in the NBA, and the Celtics hold the best record. At 7:30, the Cavs are going to host the Pacers. At 7:30, the Toronto Raptors are going to host the Brooklyn Nets, as the Brooklyn Nets are on a 4-game winning streak. At 8 o'clock, the Chicago Bulls are going to host the New York Knicks, as the Knicks are on a 5-game winning streak, the longest active winning streak in the Eastern Conference. And then at 8 o'clock, the OKC Thunder are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves. At 8:30, the Dallas Mavericks are set to host the Portland Trailblazers, as the Trailblazers are on a 3-game winning streak. That brings us to where we are today, and I do want to thank the ESPN, the FIFA, the World Cup, the NCAA, NFL, NHL, and NBA sites for giving me all the facts and figures that I need in order to do this, because of course I can't just come up with the statistics myself. I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I will catch you with more tomorrow, and peace out. Thanks for listening.